Okay, so one of the dumbest narratives you'll hear throughout NBA history is that, oh my god, if Michael Jordan played in today's era with the spacing, the three-point shooting, the foul baiting, the free throws, all these different things, he would average 45, 50, 60 points per game. And I just want to show you why that whole narrative, that logic used to reason that narrative, is stupid. Okay, so the first argument that they're all going to point to is that they're going to say, you know, former NBA players, current NBA players, guys like Ty Lue, Shaq, Dennis Rodman, even Stephen A, these credible sources, they all say MJ could do it. Dennis Rodman said that, oh yeah, if MJ played in today's era, he would definitely average 50 points per game. You got Ty Lue, a very smart coach, he knows what he's talking about. He said that MJ would average 45 points in today's era. He just said that. It has to be true. And yeah, the way that they say it, it sounds great. Oh yeah, back in the 80s and 90s, it was tough defense, physical. There were so many less possessions per game because the pace was so slow. The defense was so much better. And MJ still averaged 37 points per game in a season. If that means that if he played in today's era with the spacing, the three-point shooting, all the bad defense, the free throws, everything, of course he would have averaged 45 points per game. It would have been easy. I mean, that's only 8 points per game more. It's super easy. But the first reason why this argument is just stupid is that we have a ton of great scorers in the NBA. We got Giannis, we got James Harden, Luka Doncic, Jokic, Steph Curry, LeBron James. None of those guys have come even close to averaging 45 points per game. And I'm not saying that all of them are necessarily better scorers than MJ or they would want to score more points or they'd want to take that many shots. That's not my point. But they haven't even come close. Since 1980, the highest scoring season ever was MJ in 1987. 37 points per game. That's 8 points off. That's 20%. Then you got James Harden, who was ridiculous. I mean, bro was putting up 50, 55, 60 in consecutive games. He only averaged 36. Kobe, a great season. Bro was shooting 27 shots a game, put up 35 points per game, 81 points in a game, 4 straight games with 50 plus, just crazy scoring numbers. He put up 35 a game. These are some of the best scorers in NBA history. MJ, James Harden, Kobe, Luka Doncic, some of the most elite scorers ever, and none of them have even come close to averaging 45 points per game. Just look at SGA this year. This dude had one of the best scoring seasons ever. He was phenomenal, efficient. He won the championship. He was great. He shot 52% from the field, 38% from three, 90% from the line. He led the league taking 22 shots per game, and he only averaged 33 points per game. For him to have averaged 45 points per game, he would have had to get better by 33%. He would have had to average 12 more points per game. Not even close. But then you're going to hear, well, MJ was special. He was different. You can't compare him to Kobe or SGA or LeBron or Steph or Jokic or Giannis. He was just on a different tier. You can't compare him to anyone because he was just so much better than everyone else, so much of a better scorer. He was just so elite. And it is true. In his career, he had some ridiculous scoring seasons. You look it up here, he had 37 points per game, 35 points per game, 34 points per game. He averaged 30 points per game for his career. I mean, that's phenomenal. Now, the first narrative you're going to hear is, oh my God, in MJ's era, the pace was so slow. They didn't get any possessions. It was so slogged down. It was so slow. They had no opportunities. Whereas today, there's so many possessions. It's so many opportunities. It's so easy to score. But when you actually look at it, that narrative, while partially true, it's not entirely true. When MJ entered the league, teams played, let's find it, they played 102 possessions per game. That's a lot. Then they got 102, then they had 100, 99, 100, 100. Then eventually, towards the end of his career, then it dropped to 90. So at the beginning of his career, they averaged 100 possessions per game. In the middle, it was 95-ish. And then by the time he was at the end with the Bulls, it was around 90 possessions per game, which is slow. And you're probably like, oh my God, well, in today's era, they probably play 120 possessions per game, 130. It's so much faster, so much more free-flowing. Nope. This season in 2025, teams on average played 99 possessions per game. So that means that the pace in today's NBA is actually slower than when MJ entered the league. Think about that. Now, as you can see, obviously today's game has a faster pace today than it was in the late 90s, but you go back to pre-Steph Curry, pre-3-point shooting, it was around 95, 92, 91. So for the first half of LeBron, even Steph, KD's career, it was actually pretty slow. It's just that for LeBron, Steph, and KD, at the end of their career, it got faster, so that's what everyone remembers. Whereas for MJ, the end of his career was very slow, less possessions, so that's what everyone remembers. But overall, over their entire career, it's actually pretty similar. And if you want to look at the Bulls specifically, they played at a slow pace. When MJ entered the league, they were at 99 possessions per game. Then in 1998, they were at 89, so they were actually one of the slower teams in the league. But again, even as one of the slower teams in the league during his era, it was only in the middle of his career around 5 possessions less per game, At the beginning, it was basically the same. And then yes, by the end, it went down to 89, 90. So that's around 5 to 10 possessions less per game. But again, for the majority of his career, on average, the pace was probably at worst 4 to 5 possessions less per game. Now, the second narrative you'll hear is, oh my God, in today's game, there's so many fouls, foul grifting, free throws. It's so much more than back then. Back then, it was tough, physical. Players didn't get to the line that much. It was so much harder. You had to actually earn it. But again, that's not true. I'm obviously not going to deny that some players flop. You got SGA, you got Harden, Embiid. These guys do foul bait a little bit, of course. But again, if you go back to MJ, Kobe, whatever, obviously not to the same extent, but every great player that gets to the free throw line foul baits to a certain extent. Not everyone's the same. Not everyone does it in the same extreme way, but every single great player that gets to the line foul baits in some way, at least a little bit. And if you actually look at the fouling numbers, players got fouled way more back then. You look at when MJ entered the league, it was 24 fouls per 100 possessions. That was basically constant throughout his entire career. It was 23, 24 fouls per 100 possessions. When LeBron entered the league, same kind of thing. Now it's at 19. It is significantly decreased. They call less fouls. There's less fouls in the game. That's partially because there's more space. There's more space to operate. It's less congested in the paint, but there's still less fouls. So that second narrative of, oh, players get so many points from free throws now, whereas back then they didn't get any free throws, is just not true. Now, the third narrative you're going to hear is, oh my God, in today's game, there's so much three-point shooting, the three-point revolution. It's so much easier to score because of that. Whereas back then, they didn't take any threes. It was so hard to score, so much more physical. They didn't have the opportunity to take threes. If they had that opportunity, they would score so much more. And yes, in theory, it sounds great. If you're able to take more three-point shots, you should be able to score more. But the thing is, you have to make those threes. And people are going to say, oh yeah, well, MJ was able to shoot 33% from three in an era where they didn't even take that many threes. If he was in an era where they always took threes, they really focused on that, he would shoot 37, 40% from three. He was a great mid-range shooter. It would have automatically translated. Like, obviously, he would have shot 40% from three. And yeah, MJ had some seasons where he shot great from three. You look at 1995, 1996, 1997, he shot 40% from three. That's great. He's like Steph Curry. He's amazing. Oh, wait. What was happening from 1995 to 1997? The NBA three-point line was shorter. They moved it in. They wanted to make it easier for players to shoot threes. So yeah, when you have a shorter three-point line, it's kind of easier to shoot threes. That's probably a big reason why his three-point percentage went up. And some of you are going to say, oh, well, it didn't matter. He could have shot from farther away. It didn't make a difference. Again, MJ's three-point percentage was 32.7%. And when they moved the line in, it was over 40. So that means that when it was an actual three-point line, it was low. In the regular season, he was a 29% three-point shooter. In the playoffs, he got a lot better. He was at 34, 35%. But in total, over his entire career from the normal three-point line, he was a 30% three-point shooter. That's not good. That's not above average. That is significantly below average. And of course, if he played in today's NBA, he was training for it all the time, he obviously would have got better. I think he could have been a 35 to 37, 38% three-point shooter. But again, he would have had to practice it, get used to it, do it all the time. He wasn't guaranteed to just be some 40, 42% three-point shooter. That's just not realistic. And also, MJ literally himself said that he didn't want to take a lot of threes because he didn't like the way it affected his game. He thought that when he took a lot of threes, he was settling, he wasn't being aggressive, he was kind of bailing the defense out. Whereas when he attacked the rim, got to the rim, got easy shots, layups, shots close to the basket, he was putting a lot of pressure on the defense. It makes it harder to defend. You're wearing them out. You're fatiguing them. That was his mindset. Now, reason number 4 why MJ wouldn't average 45, 50, 60 points per game in today's era is that he wouldn't want to. Michael Jordan was super competitive. His main goal was to win. He didn't really care about averaging 80 points a game or doing this, the flair, the flash. His main goal was to win games. And do you think averaging 40, 50 points per game helps you win games? I'll break it to you. The answer is no. You look at MJ's highest scoring seasons. In 1987, he averaged 37 points per game. 1988, he averaged 35. 1990, he averaged 34. What's similar about all those seasons? He didn't win. He didn't win. He didn't win. Then yes, in 1993, he was great. He averaged 33 points per game and he won. But in 1989, he didn't win. Then when he started averaging less points, 1991, he won. 1996, he won. 1992, he won. 1997, he won. 1998, he won. You see a pattern? You look at the seasons where MJ took the most shots. You got 1987, 1988, 1990, 1995. He didn't win in any of those. Yes, in 1993 he won. He won in 1998, 97, 92, 96, 91. But again, in most of the seasons where he scored a lot, took a lot of shots, was a ball hog, he didn't win. And yes, a big reason for that was that he didn't have great teammates. He didn't have a ton of help, all that kind of stuff. But that's exactly the point. If you have a lot of help, if you have great teammates, you're not going to average 45 points per game because you have help. You're going to pass, you're going to get it to open teammates that can make shots. You're not going to just jack up all the shots. The next thing I find hilarious about this whole subject is that old heads never mention other great players. They never say Charles Barkley would average 40 today, or Dominique Wilkins, or Karl Malone, or David Robinson, or John Stockton, Magic Johnson. They only say Michael Jordan. Only Michael Jordan. So I'm genuinely curious, if it's so easy to score now, if there's so much spacing, there's so many foul grifters, all that kind of stuff, would Dominique Wilkins average 40 points per game, or Larry Bird, or Karl Malone, or David Robinson, or Adrian Dantley, Alex English? Would all these guys start averaging 50, 60 points per game, or is that only Michael Jordan? And using that same logic, does that mean that all the players in today's game or in the past 20 years, would they average less points back in the 80s and 90s? Would Kevin Durant only average 20 to 25 points per game? Would Steph Curry struggle to score? Would he only be at 18 to 23 points per game? How about LeBron? Would LeBron struggle to break 15, 25, 30 points per game? Or is that air attacks only work one way? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that players from the 80s and 90s would just come in today's era and average 25, 30% more points per game because it's so much easier, but then not say that the great scorers in today's game like Jokic, Giannis, Shea, Luka, all those guys, that they would go back into the 80s and then they would only average 15 to 20 points per game. Like, it just doesn't work, because we all know that if those players played in the 1980s and 1990s, they would not average less points per game. They would be fine. And if you don't believe me, if you think I'm just making all this stuff up and you're just lying to everyone and MJ would definitely average 45, 50 points per game, let's look at the numbers. MJ had some ridiculous scoring seasons. In 1987, when he averaged 37 points per game, he averaged 46.4 points per 100 possessions. That's one of the top 5 or 6 ever. You look at his entire career, he was at over 40 points per 100 possessions. That is phenomenal. I think it's the best ever. So everyone's going to be like, well, obviously, if there's more possessions in today's game, all that kind of stuff, he would obviously average 40 points per game. But let's just look at these two scenarios. The first one up here with 41.5, this is when MJ was on the Bulls only. This is his points per 100 possessions on the Bulls. And this one right here is his highest scoring season. This is 1987. I basically did a calculation to find how many points he would average per game based on the pace, adjusting for all that kind of stuff. And what I found is that if he averaged 41.5 points per 100 possessions, in today's game, there's around 99 possessions per game. If he played the entire game, which is not possible, but yes, if he played the entire game, every game, he would average 41 points per game. That's great, but it's not realistic. He would take 31 shots per game and 11 free throws per game. That's not happening. Now, if you adjust it for how many minutes per game he played during his career, which was 38.6, it's more realistic. Based on that logic, if he averaged 41.5 points per 100 possessions and he played 80 possessions per game, he would average 33 points per game. That's very realistic. But again, if that was the case, he would have had to take in 25 shots per game. That's one of the highest ever. 9 free throws per game. That's a lot. Again, just for reference, this season, no one averaged over 37, 38 minutes per game. No one took more than 22 shots per game. So if MJ did that, that would be rare. Now, if you look at his highest scoring season in 1987, where he averaged 46.4 points per 100 possessions, that's ridiculous. Again, if he played the entire game, every single possession of the game, all 48 minutes, he would average 46 points per game on 35 shots per game and 15 free throw attempts per game. Not realistic. Now, if he played 40 minutes per game, which is a little more realistic, but it's still not that realistic, especially in today's era, he would average 38.3 points per game. That's more realistic on 29 shots per game and 12 free throws per game. Those are both absurdly high. So yes, do I think that MJ could average 37, 38, maybe 39 points per game in a single season in today's era? Maybe, it's possible. Is it 100% sure? No, but it is possible. But over his entire career, would he average 40 points, 37 points per game? No, he would average maybe 29 to 32, but 40, 45, that's ridiculous. It's not even close. Again, if you wanted to be like Wilt and take 40 shots per game, or be like Elgin Baylor taking 30 shots per game, some older player back in the 60s, 70s taking 30 to 40 shots per game, yeah, maybe he would have been able to average 40 points per game. But you could use that same logic for anyone. If Steph Curry took 40 shots per game, would he average 50 points? If LeBron did, if Jokic, Giannis, Shea, if they all took 40 shots per game, would they average 50 points per game? Maybe, but again, none of those guys would do that. Steph wouldn't do it, LeBron wouldn't do it, even Kobe and MJ wouldn't do it, because it doesn't work for winning, it's tiring, it's not efficient, they just wouldn't do it. And the last thing is that old heads always love to point to the narratives that they talk about, the defense, the pace, the spacing, all that kind of stuff, but they never mention illegal defense, zone defense, the different rules, the different level of defender, the different prototype of player, all that kind of stuff. They only mention the narratives that support their argument, and then they just completely ignore all the other narratives. So That's why it doesn't really work. Again, I'm not trying to say that MJ wouldn't score in today's era. That's not the point of this. The point is that each era has different things. They have different rules, different situations. So trying to be like, oh, it's so much easier to score in today's era without acknowledging all the ways that it's actually harder, that's dumb. So I just want to be clear. The whole point of this video isn't to hate on MJ and say that he would suck in today's era and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's true. In today's era, he would be great. He would probably average 28 to 32 points per game, depending on how well he transitioned to this era. He would be a better three-point shooter. He would probably take less mid-range shots and more threes, all that kind of stuff. He would be a great player, an MVP caliber player. But the reason I have to make this video is that it's just so disrespectful to come in here and say, oh yeah, MJ would average 45 points per game in today's era when Kobe couldn't do that. SGA's not even close. LeBron, Steph, Jokic, Giannis, all these great players in today's era haven't even come close to that, but somehow Michael Jordan, who played in an era with less talent 30 years ago, he would come in here and average 45 points per game. Like, it's just disrespectful, it's dumb, it's a lazy argument. I get it sounds great, but if you actually think about it, if you take a little bit of time to actually look at it, it's just not true. And of course, in today's game, there are definitely reasons why it's easier to score. There's more space, there's better three-point shooting, more overall talent, you have better teammates, the lane's not as congested, all that kind of stuff. But then again, all the things that I mentioned before, the illegal defense, the higher level of talent, the zone defenses, all that kind of stuff, that would make it harder for him to score. So it goes both ways. Would every single player from the 80s and 90s just automatically average 35 points per game today? No. Would every player today go back to the 80s and 90s and average more points? No. We don't know that. That's why it's hard to compare eras. It's not exactly even. So this whole idea of just being like, oh yeah, if I played in this era, I would average this many points. It's like, just stop it. It's dumb and irresponsible. So the final verdict, would Michael Jordan average 45 points per game in today's era? No shot. No shot.